guys, this is Recce Routes out here in the desert in Baja, California. I want to talk a little bit about the crossover skill set that comes with racing or pre-running motorcycles in the desert, like the CRF 450X, which is a purebred desert bike, versus taking something like your big heavy adventure bike out in this place. A lot of ADV influencers, personalities, and the like, they advocate really heavily for getting your training done, learning a lot of your skills on a little dirt bike. This is not a little dirt bike, this is a 450, but in the scheme of things, when you compare it to a 500-pound KTM, a big heavy GS, or an Africa Twin, this is a little dirt bike. It's very flickable. And with that comes some trade-offs. I know that you can really embed those muscle memory skill sets by training on bikes like this, but you can also develop what are called training scars. What are training scars? Training scars are when you embed the wrong muscle memory and you default to that behavior when you don't know what to do and you go into autopilot mode. Maybe you hit the thing that ADV riders seem to fear the most: sand. Sand seems to catch out just about all ADV riders who are not accustomed to riding in Baja and loose surfaces. Well, you come here out to Baja, you're gonna find sand everywhere. And what you may learn on a 450 or 250 dirt bike, or even like a 300 two-stroke, is that you can just pin it, slide your butt to the back, and float that stuff. Well, ADV bikes tend to plow a lot more. They have a whole lot more weight over the front wheel with big long-range gas tanks. So that may be a training scar that you come to find is a big surprise after you've done all your workup and your training on a bike like this and then transitioning over to a big heavy adventure bike. Let's talk about bike personality as a type of training scar. I spent about a year riding nothing but my KTM 890 Adventure R, and then swapped back to my old friend here, the CRF 450X, which has been set up purely for desert. That was a jarring experience for me. I wouldn't consider myself an expert motorcycle rider, but an advanced intermediate. I've got thousands of miles on this bike in the Mexican deserts, but not race miles, more pre-run miles. I hopped on this thing after riding that KTM and found the steering geometry to be so much more snappy, the download torque to be so much more immediate, and the overall experience to be quite jarring. So when you're thinking about training scars and being aware of them as you move away from an ADV bike towards a dirt bike, or vice versa, back to your ADV bike after a trip to the desert, ease into things. Don't throw it all away and think you're riding the same bike every single time. Let yourself warm up to the machine. Let the machine warm up to you. Consider your peg position, your handlebar position, what your controls feel like, what the power delivery is like. How do these tires respond versus the tires on your ADV bike? Can I attack that whoop section with the same ferocity because I have 4 inches of less wheel travel? No, you can't. Keep these things in mind as you're going down to Baja for your first time on an ADV bike, or you're going back home and you're getting back on a different machine. Let's talk about another training scar that you might develop if you're learning all your desert riding, off-road riding skills on a purebred off-road bike like a CRF or a KX or YZF, something like that. And then transitioning over to your heavy adventure bike. That's whoops. Motocross riders often call them moguls, call them a rhythm section. In the desert, they're called whoops. These are rhythmic undulations in the sand and the dirt from years and years of race trucks, cars, buggies, bikes charging the terrain, and it creates a cyclical traction, no traction scenario with your wheels that digs pits and builds mounds. So you've got speed bump after speed bump after speed bump, but these are 3 or 4 feet deep and full of embedded rocks and loose sand. Riding that kind of terrain on a dirt bike like this, you loft the front tire, you keep it in the air, you skip 1 or 2, or you just land tire high on each one on the face, and everything's nice and controlled. On an ADV bike, you may find yourself facing exhaustion in your quads, your hamstrings, your arms, because you're wrestling this big heavy machine. That's a training scar you may have to learn to overcome on a heavy ADV bike versus riding something that's a little more nimble and purpose-built for racing through the desert. I've got thousands of miles racing cars and pre-running on bikes in Mexico, and it's taken years to learn these things and how to live comfortably with them. So what is the solution to breaking through training scars? Well, there's a few different schools of thought. The first of which is you should only stick to one machine at a time. Don't blur the lines between your muscle memory. Those of us who own cars, motorcycles, and other types of internal combustion toys know that's an impossibility. If you've got the addiction, you've probably got more than one toy, and you're not going to stop riding it just to make sure every time is picture perfect. My best suggestion is to build a strong foundational level of fundamental skills. Through that training, you'll be able to hop on any machine with a level of confidence and competency that is not going to immediately let you down. You can hop in any car and drive it around with the same license. So you need to get to that level of comfort and proficiency on motorcycles so that when you hop off your dirt bike onto your ADV bike, it's not such a jarring shock. So what training scars am I still working through, jumping between my KTM 890 and my CRF 450? First and foremost are the ergonomics. Changing between those bikes, they have very different steering geometries, peg positions, and cockpit setups. Next up is braking distances. When you jam on the binders on a big, heavy ADV bike, especially on a loose surface, that thing has so much inertia, it takes some time to slow down that freight train. And last up are cornering dynamics related to peg weighting, tire composition, and bike lean while going through bermed and flat marbly corners. Nothing like a morning of exploring in Baja with the Recce Routes CRF 450X. Hope to get the KTM out here one of these days and see how that thing shakes down in the sand, whoops, and rocks of San Felipe.